Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. What the slump yesterday is. The slump just continues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is whatever day, Friday, January 23rd. I need my coffee. I got up like an hour earlier. I don't know. I was feeling sick last night. I'm going to sleep a little bit earlier. Made me get up a little bit earlier. I sense the snow coming. We're going to get like 2 to 3 feet of snow, apparently. At first, it was like, no, we're going to get 3 to 6 inches. Now it's like, nah, 2 to 3 feet. I'm like, well, which one is it? Like, that's a pretty big disparity. But we're up here in New England, man. Like, nobody even really gives a shit. It's just like, yeah, I don't know, 1 foot, 2 feet. All right, like, it happens. Meanwhile, you got like North Carolina like shutting the whole state down for like 3 to 6 inches. Oh man, for a little bit of ice on the road, and not the ice that's up in Minnesota. Well, they have both kinds of ice, but you know what I mean. I'm going to have a bunch. Dude, I need to give out more plays on the Sixers because their theme song is too good. I don't even like the Sixers. I can't stand Philadelphia. Sorry, Jeffrey, but the song is a banger, and I got to do it when I give out a win on the Sixers. So there you go. Mr. Pinsey, what's up? Tyson, what's up? Kyle, what's up? I'm actually not very happy about yesterday. It was a win. It was 4-3. We started out with the afternoon was a winner with Appalachian State. They were close for a while there. Early in the second half, it was close, but they pulled away in the end. We got a close win on Iona. I mean, that was a real toss-up of a game. Like, statistically, it was pretty close. That one could have gone either way, but I guess you'd rather have the small home underdog in a situation like that, and that's what we had. Towson, easy win with them. So we were rolling early on, man. The only early loss was, well, Northeastern. Didn't do well. I don't know what to say about that, man. If you look at the box score, I think there was some crazy disparity there. I'm going to bring it up right now. Actually, let me see. Actually, I don't have it up in my... well, I can share my screen right now, whatever. As we go through what happened yesterday, Northeastern, there was something that happened in that game where I was like, come on, man. They lost by 15, but I don't want to, like, go through it that... in, you know, that detailed a manner, but they had 9 more field goal attempts in the game. Really, I don't know, man. I mean, they shot horribly from the free throw line. Yeah, they got out-rebounded. I don't know. It wasn't the best game. And then what else do we have? Oh, yeah, New Mexico State was the most frustrating one. New Mexico State, if you look at what happened in that game, it was ridiculous. Like, they outshot Missouri State in field goal attempts, 62-53. Missouri State shoots 51% from the field, though. New Mexico State was missing all of their three-pointers. Yet again, New Mexico State's opponent got sent to the free throw line more, which is something I mentioned in the Instagram video for this play. New Mexico State has been on the wrong side of the free throw attempts more than like any team in the country. Like, that's part of the reason why they're so unlucky. The other team just keeps getting sent to the free throw line. It's not just New Mexico State committing more fouls. It's just they're getting called for more fouls. It's ridiculous. But yes, they did get out-rebounded as well. But still, that really, really angered me. And then we had, of course, the Philadelphia 76ers with the win. Golden State couldn't get there, although Golden State was winning by 4 or 5 late in the game, but they were pretty much just never going to get there, and that was the whole day. And I'm wearing my Bruins hat because the Bruins won a game they probably shouldn't have won, even though they were winning 4-0, and they almost blew the entire game. They got outplayed in that game, dude. They got a couple of power play goals early, so yeah, they were effective on the power play early, which is what put them in the lead early. But yeah, I'm happy they won. So there is that. All right, let's jump into today, man. Today, I'm only going to have one college basketball play here. I have a couple other opinions here that don't really make the cut, and then 2 hockey plays, and it's going to be a rare Friday where I'm skipping the NBA board, although I feel like I've done that on other Fridays too. Friday used to be like the big NBA day, if I remember. It seemed like back in the day, like not that long ago, I thought it was almost like every team was playing on Friday for the most part, but that's not really the case recently. I think there are only like 8 games, and I'm not going to have a play in any of them. College basketball, we have some weird stuff going on. We have more noontime action between 2 teams that played yesterday. UL Monroe and Appalachian State both played yesterday. Appalachian State won, of course, and they're staying at home, so they probably have a little bit of an advantage with the fact that they don't have to travel here. They got the win yesterday for us against Louisiana. UL Monroe is coming in. UL Monroe is even worse probably than Louisiana. They are bad, dude. Like, where does Ken Baum have them? He has Louisiana Monroe, a bottom, like, 10 team, like, even worse than that, like, 7th worst in the country. Even worse than their Louisiana counterparts there, which is why App State is a 15.5-point favorite, although that, that's probably a little bit overkill. I don't know. UL Monroe, I believe they did play yesterday as well, and they got obliterated by Marshall, and I think that was a TV game, I think, early on, wasn't it? I don't know why that game would have been on TV if it was. No, it was only on ESPN+, but yeah, I mean, you lose by 55 points, and give up 115. I mean, there's probably no way to go but up on that. Like, I don't know, man. This line does seem a little bit out of control, even though Appalachian State is staying at home. They're up from 14.5 to 15.5. I know how bad UL Monroe is, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would lay the points in that one. I might lean towards taking the points in that one, but I want no part of it, obviously. It's a fairly low total in the 140s. I felt like we got a little bit lucky with App State pulling away in yesterday's game, so I don't know. But those are my thoughts on that one. All right. I feel like, am I usually like in the middle of the left-hand side of the screen? I don't know. Something's throwing me off today. Like, I don't know. StreamYard just seems to be doing some weird stuff. Then, I don't know, we have a bunch of afternoon games here. I mean, if you want me to talk about some of these other games, I guess I can. But Stetson and Austin Peay has some interest because these teams also played yesterday. And Stetson, they seem to match up well against Lipscomb or something, man, because they beat Lipscomb at home. And then yesterday they almost won on the road. They took Lipscomb into overtime. So, obviously, I'm going to lean against Stetson today, and I almost made it a play, dude, because this is a huge performance from Stetson. And again, I think they just match up well here against Lipscomb for whatever reason. Lipscomb had a really bad shooting game. They had more field goal attempts in the game, and they still almost lost, and they only shot 39% from the field. So that's a bit of an outlier there, I would say, although Stetson massively out-rebounded Lipscomb, which is interesting. So that's one thing that kind of worries me about fading Stetson in the game today. But they gave it their all in this game, man, against Lipscomb. And they were 15.5 point underdogs. And you know what I say, when you're a massive underdog like that, and it was against like the team that's probably the best team in the Atlantic Sun, and you fall just short, you're probably going to be flat, especially when you have to play the next day, and they're having to travel to a different city for it, although they're staying in the state of Tennessee for this. But they got to go to Clarksville now, and it might be the last train to Clarksville, because they might lose to Austin Peay here. Austin Peay also played yesterday, and I thought they would have a more difficult time because they were coming off of, I believe, their first conference loss, and it was a big game against Lipscomb, but they had no problem bouncing back from that, and they won by 21 yesterday against Florida Gulf Coast, who's not very good this year. But that might set Austin Peay up a little bit better in this game. I mean, they're not having to travel. They're staying at home. Easy win yesterday. They don't really have a huge game on deck. Eastern Kentucky next, so if I was going to play this game, I would have to lay the points with Austin Peay. They did drop from 14.5 to 14, though. But I see no other way to play this. My worry is just that Stetson, well, there are two worries. Like, I think, it all is basically one. It's that Stetson's not going to overlook Austin Peay. So if you're going to play Austin Peay here, you're playing that Stetson is just not going to have anything left in the tank, like, physically. You know what I mean? Because I don't think they're going to have a problem getting up for the game mentally, because they actually already played Austin Peay at home, and Austin Peay beat them. So this is the second matchup here, and you know, I like to look for the road underdogs if that team lost the first game, similar to what I do in the NFL. So that's one hesitation that I have with this, even though, again, I would still lay the points with Austin Peay if I was going to do this. I think the spot is really difficult for Stetson. If you dig into this game, Stetson, when they lost to Austin Peay at home, Stetson actually out-rebounded Austin Peay in the game, but they massively lost the turnover battle. So there are some things about this game that actually say that Stetson actually outplayed Austin Peay in the game, as unbelievable as that sounds, because Stetson's not very good. Stetson actually had more field goal attempts in the game as well. They do jack up a lot of threes a lot of the time, though, Stetson does, so there's some three-point variance that you get out of them. And they were 9.5 point underdogs in that game the first time. So the line here actually almost seems a little bit, it seems about right, I guess. It depends, like, how much do you give for home court here? But the fact that Stetson is having to travel on a back-to-back off of a monster game, I think you probably do have to give Austin Peay a little bit more for that. So I actually think the line might be a little bit short, given what the situation looks like. Although I think KenPom has this line at around 13. So do with all that information what you will. But I would still lay it with Austin Peay if I was going to play it. And then the other teams that I just talked about are also playing today. Florida Gulf Coast is having to go from Austin Peay to Lipscomb. So they're going from Clarksville to Nashville. Lipscomb is staying at home, and Lipscomb is coming off that near loss. And you know, I talk about when a huge favorite almost loses, it tends to refocus them in the next game. So I think that might happen for Lipscomb here. So I would lay the points with Lipscomb in this one as well. They don't have a huge game on deck, really, against Jacksonville, who's close to the bottom of the standings. So Florida Gulf Coast, if they played really close against Austin Peay yesterday, then I might be like actually going full bore on both of these. But as it stands, maybe this is becoming a bore, me talking about these. But I thought there was a little bit of an angle still for both of these. And really it is fading Stetson off of playing a huge game as a dog and playing on Lipscomb after almost losing as a huge favorite. I think those are kind of the angles there. So I prefer both home teams laying the points in those. Lipscomb has gone up from a 4.5 point favorite to an 8 point favorite, though. So I don't know what is going on with that line. The initial line of 4.5 actually seemed really short. I don't know what KenPom has the number at, because I just decided to skip the game, and KenPom wasn't going to sway me one way or the other. But you're losing line value on Lipscomb if you miss that 4.5. I mean, I think it was 6 when I looked at it earlier, so that line is skyrocketing. I don't exactly know why. I don't know if maybe there's an injury or something on the Florida Gulf Coast side. I have no idea, but that game's not on my card. I prefer Austin Peay over Lipscomb anyway. Out of those two games, I think Austin Peay is actually the stronger of the two plays, but I like both home favorites there. Furman is at UNC Greensboro, and Furman lost outright in their last game to Citadel. So that was a game where I don't remember. Somebody asked for my opinion on that game, and I hope that I was correct with my lean on Citadel. I hope I gave out a Citadel lean in that game, but I don't remember if I did. 'Cause Citadel is like the little brother in like all of these South Carolina schools. They played well. They beat they beat not Wofford. I think Wofford might be in South Carolina too, but no, they beat Furman here. Yeah, so Furman is coming off a really, really ugly loss, man. I think they've actually lost 2 times as a favorite now, twice in a row as a favorite, but this time double-digit favorite, and they lose in overtime to the Citadel. Obviously, that's a bad loss, so I would be looking towards Furman to bounce back after that. I don't know exactly what happened in this game. Well, actually, I do. There was a huge free throw disparity in this game. Furman actually was the slightly better shooting team in the game, and they had more field goal attempts as well. But the reason they lost was free throws. I mean, look at this. Citadel had 30 free throw attempts, and Furman only had 16. So seems like some home-biased reffing there, man. So that's really the main reason Furman lost that game. So I think they're going to bounce back. That was just an ugly loss, and it's kind of explainable when you dive into the box score there. It is a second straight road game for them, but I think they're going to be in a foul mood, and they're going to come out and play well in this one. UNC Greensboro, I expect them to show up as well, though, because Furman is one of the better teams in this conference. They're ahead of Greensboro in the standings. Greensboro, easy win over VMI in their last game. So I don't really want to do anything with the game, but I would probably lean towards laying the points with Furman, though, just because they are coming off such an ugly loss there. But the line actually dropped a little bit on this game from 5.5 to 5. So some information for you on that one. Though all these games are in the afternoon that I've talked about so far. A lot of afternoon Friday action here. 5:30 p.m. we have an ESPN2 game, the first actually nationally televised game here between number 24 ranked St. Louis and St. Bonaventure. St. Louis is legit, man. I think we finally are going to get to see Robbie Avila in a tournament setting finally, which will be fun. Do they deserve to be ranked in the top 25? Probably not. Ken Bum has them close, 29th, so it's not that far off. This is a legit St. Louis team, man. Although I think St. Bonaventure is probably not as bad as their conference record looks. They're 1-5 in the conference so far. But, I just don't know, man. I mean, they lost a fairly close game at VCU. They lost to Richmond at home. That's not an easy opponent either. They've had a couple other road games. I mean, the LaSalle game was the worst loss that they had. But Bonaventure did finally get a win in their last game against Loyola Chicago, who we know is a mess this year. Sister Jean no longer being with them, I think, I don't know, it seems to have tanked their season rather than, you'd think that they would get up and play well in a scenario like that, but that has not been the case at all. But for St. Bonaventure, they just got their first conference win finally and ended a long losing streak. So I think that's good. That will give them momentum coming into this. You just get that monkey off your back, as I always say. When you haven't won yet in conference, it's looming. It affects you mentally. And then once you get through that, then you can play a lot looser. For St. Louis, it's not really a bad spot for them here, though. They do have George Washington up next, so possibly they would be looking ahead to that. They're coming off a close call against Duquesne, though, as Duquesne actually played them pretty well. I believe I leaned to Duquesne plus the points in that one, and they did cover. So because St. Louis did have a close call there, they might actually come in and play better in this game. All that being said, though, I probably would still lean towards taking the points with Bonaventure in this one. St. Louis is down from 8.5 to 8 here. The line does seem, it makes it look pretty easy to lay the points with St. Louis. Let's just say that. So, yeah, I would probably take the points, but it's not a game that I love by any means. Fox Sports 1 at 6 p.m. has a great Big Ten matchup here. There are a couple of Big Ten games today. This is the uglier of them. Indiana at Rutgers. Ugh, God. Indiana's coming off of a respectable loss at Michigan, where I think they covered. They lost by 14, and I think they came inside of the number there, which doesn't sound good. But Indiana, still, they were not in position to win that game or anything like that. They've lost 4 games in a row. They haven't looked good, really, in conference play, man. They've gotten some wins against some of the dregs of the Big Ten, and then they have not stepped up well in class. But guess who is one of the dregs of the Big Ten? Yeah, that would be Rutgers. Rutgers is pretty awful. Although they actually have more conference wins than some of these other teams. They're not good, though. But Indiana does also have Purdue on deck, so that's something to keep in mind. Not only is Purdue an elite team, one of the top teams in the conference, but that's an in-state rivalry game as well between Indiana and Purdue. So the concern with Indiana is that they might be looking ahead here. Like, I wouldn't classify this as a sandwich because they lost by double digits to Michigan, so I don't think that that's going to, like, hang them over or anything, but the look-ahead component might be a concern, and they are having to travel from Michigan to New Jersey here, so that's not that easy to do. Rutgers is actually coming off a better performance. They actually almost won at Iowa, so Rutgers is actually maybe in the debatably worst spot here because they were 17.5-point underdogs in this game against Iowa, and they actually were in position to potentially win this game. Like, they were down 2 in the final minute of this game, so Rutgers actually maybe in the worst spot off of that huge game, and they have Michigan State on deck. Although I guess if you're Rutgers, you're probably not really going to overlook anybody. Rutgers has been better at home in conference play. Their only home conference loss was to Purdue, and they beat Oregon and Northwestern, although those aren't very impressive wins. And I think we had Rutgers in the game against Northwestern because I think they caught Northwestern in a bad spot. But, yeah, this is a tough game to handicap, really. I think I would probably lay the points with Indiana, though, to be honest. Like, Rutgers coming up that huge game against Iowa, and they're having to travel from Iowa back home. So both teams have travel from the Midwest here. The line, for some reason, dropped from 9 to 6 here on Indiana. I don't really know why. But I would probably have to lay it with Indiana if I was going to play it. And Indiana, I mean, they're going to have to do something because they're on the verge of missing the tournament yet again. So I think Indiana might be the team that's more incentivized to come in and put in a better effort here as well. So I would probably slightly lean towards Indiana there. But again, I don't know if there's an injury or what's going on with that line move there. High Point and Radford is a pretty good game in the Big South here. Between two of the top 3 teams. High Point is actually now behind Winthrop in the standings because they lost to Winthrop and they have 1 fewer win right now in the conference. This is going to be a big game, but Radford is pretty competitive. It's a 3rd road game in 4 games for High Point. High Point bounced back nicely off of that loss to Winthrop, though they easily handled USC Upstate. They don't have a bigger game up next, so this is a big game for both teams. I think both teams will show up for it. Radford actually probably sets up worse in this game because they just went on the road to Winthrop, who's the other better team in this conference, of course. And Radford lost the game by 1 in a close call. And I'm pretty sure Winthrop was a favorite in this game. Yeah, they were 9.5-point favorites. So Radford came really close to pulling off the 9.5-point upset in that game. Now, they're not going to overlook High Point, obviously, but the question is, what are they going to have left in the tank after that? So I think I would have to probably lean towards High Point in this game. I just think the scheduling spot works out better for them. The money has come in against them, though. They've dropped from 9 to 7.5. And again, I think sometimes you see these like market moves, and I think some of it is like professionals that play based on the numbers and not on the situation. So sometimes the numbers and the situation will be in conflict, you know, and I'm much more of a situational handicap, or like I probably don't factor in the number even as much as I should, you know, like I almost go pure situation, which almost seems like pure vibes, but I don't know. That's just the way that it's worked out for me. CBS Sports is televising UMass at Buffalo for some reason in the MAC. I don't know why. UMass is coming off a pretty decent win at home against Toledo. Toledo is in the top, 5 or 6 teams in the MAC here. UMass, probably worse than that, though, is that UMass does have Miami, Ohio on deck. That Miami, Ohio team that nobody can get rid of. They're ranked in the top 25. KenPom still has them ranked around like 90th. And they face a very, very easy schedule, though Miami, Ohio just won at Kent State. And by the way, there's a decent chance that Miami, Ohio finishes the regular season undefeated at this point because they actually don't have to play on the road at Akron. I looked at their schedule. I'm like, they must have to play 2 games against Akron because that's like a big in-state rivalry thing, but no, they only had one game against Akron. It was at home, and they already won that one. So it's crazy because I think if they had to play at Akron, I think they would lose. But it's insane. Miami, Ohio has a very, very easy schedule. Their most difficult game remaining is on the road at Ohio in the season finale, which is ridiculous. But, of course, it's possible they slip up at some point. But anyway, UMass does have them next, so it could be a look ahead for UMass. Going to Buffalo, I do think Buffalo is not as good as their record looks, though. As I keep saying, Buffalo had a really, really easy out-of-conference schedule, and their in-conference schedule actually was really easy to start. And then since they started facing the better teams in the conference, they've lost every game. Although we know Buffalo's probably not as good as any of those teams. Ohio, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, and Akron. They're definitely not better than those last three. But those are the teams they lost to. They lost to Akron in pretty much a blowout. But Buffalo played really competitively at Miami, Ohio. They almost won that game. And that's what they were coming off of. So I think they just had no steam left at that point. Now they're back at home. They're against UMass. Buffalo with a bunch of losses in a row. They're going to be looking for a win here, man. So I probably prefer the Buffalo side in this one. UMass has gone up a little bit from 1 to 1.5, but I think I would probably take the 1.5 with Buffalo in that one if I was going to play that game. I'm not going to do it, but I think the spot sets up a little bit better for them. Long Island at Stonehill, I'm going to talk about because Long Island just lost a win streak. They took their first conference loss, so sometimes when that happens, I talk about how the team might be hung over coming off of a game like that and going into the next game. And it's a third straight road game for Long Island, so it's not actually the greatest spot for them, although they did lose as a favorite in their last game at Moyne, and I think Long Island was only about a 4.5-point favorite in that game. And I'm going to talk about that game in a little while for my best bet, actually, in college basketball. But I could see it going both ways, man. You could make the argument that, well, Long Island was the better team, and they're coming off a game that they probably should have won based on the fact they were a favorite. And when I show you the box score in this game, you're probably not even going to believe it. That game was total insanity. It's one of the most insane box scores that I've ever seen. I'm not even joking. Like, there's no way to overstate it. And I'll show you that when I talk about Moyne, because they're playing today. But yeah, so my first reaction to that was, well, Long Island's going to bounce back here, but maybe they won't because, I don't know, they play Moyne again in 2 games. It's a third straight road game. They hadn't lost in conference yet, so it is possible they'll be hung over here. They're having to go from, Moyne is in Syracuse, New York, and they're having to go to Easton, Mass for Stonehill here. Stonehill is coming off probably an uglier loss, really, because Moyne has actually been pretty competitive in the conference this year. Stonehill just lost to St. Francis. St. Francis is really bad, so that's a bad loss for Stonehill, man. There's no way around that. Although St. Francis was actually favored in the game, but I still think that's a real ugly loss if you lose to a team like that. Maybe Stonehill was looking ahead to Long Island here, so I don't know. I mean, looking at the game, I think I would actually probably take the points with Stonehill in that one, plus the 7 in that one. It's a low total of 138 as well. It looks like it's going to be a bit of an ugly one. Speaking of Moyne and Wagner, here we go, man. Best bets. We are going to be on Wagner here, plus the points. We're going to fade Moyne, and I think this might be an ugly game as well. We have a pretty low total in this game as well, I think. Well, it's 147. It's gone down a little bit. Actually, you can get a better number on this right now. Let me see. Because the 7.5, of course, 7 is the key number here, but it looks like the number's going up. And I'm pretty sure Ken Bum has this number at about 6. So if we're getting more value on this now, I see all the books that I see right now are either at 7.5 or 8.5. Because, dude, these books just screw you at this point. Like, the number should be 8, like consensus right now, but the books are just trying to screw you. So you can either get 8.5 at BetMGM, I'm looking at right now, and you have to pay more juice for it, and FanDuel, and the score, actually, or you can play DraftKings 7.5, and it's at even money now. I mean, come on. I would just wait. I would wait to see if the other books put this game up and whatever, but get at least 7.5 on this, and I think it's fine, but you might be able to get a better number than this. Cloud, what's up, man? Pittsburgh Penguins. I see your terrible towel avatar there. You're a Pittsburgh fan there. I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I will give you that. I'm all over the place with my rooting, but as a Bruins fan, yeah, I'm not a fan of the Penguins. I will put that out there. And I do think that they're overrated this year. I apologize, but that's just that's my read on the situation there. Thanks for checking out the show, man. I appreciate it. Saab, yeah, you went 5-0 yesterday. I'm really, really mad about the Warriors not covering. You had it right with the first quarter. You got the Blues and Ohio State. I agree with you on Ohio. I probably agree on both. I don't know if I agree on the St. Louis side. I agree with Ohio State. Neither of those are my plays, though. And yesterday you had, Penguins, Predators. Yeah, Sixers. We were both on the Sixers yesterday. That was a good win. It went into overtime, though, for the Sixers to get that win. But anyway, all right, Wagner here. Dude, if you look at Lemoyne's box score, you're going to see why I'm doing this. But also, we can look at Ken Baum here. Of course, do you really want to lay points with the 266th best team in the country, Lemoyne? I know they're at home and whatever, but I kind of don't. They do play faster. They're on the faster side of the tempo, whereas Wagner's going to want to slow it down. But it is easier to slow it down if you're like the lesser team and whatever. So Wagner might be able to muddy this thing up. Lemoyne is a very bad defensive team, although both of these teams are, at 284th. And Lemoyne has faced a very weak schedule, by the way, at 342nd. Although, yeah, Ken Baum has them as a unlucky team as well. But if you look at Wagner, yes, I know Wagner is total crap, 327th in Ken Baum's rankings. They're comparable with Lemoyne offensively. Defensively, they're worse. Defensively, they're really, really bad, I know. But again, they might be able to muddy this thing up, slow the game down. Both teams have faced a really weak schedule, but Ken Baum does have Wagner in the bottom, 25 in luck. So Wagner has underperformed, according to Ken Baum. But really, this is about the spot, man. Wagner is coming into this on 5 straight losses, so I think you're going to get motivation out of them. And I know it's a 3rd straight road game. They went to New Haven, Connecticut. They went to Fairleigh Dickinson, which I believe is in New Jersey. And now they're coming up to Syracuse, New York. I know, and I know they have Long Island on deck. And that's the team that's in front in the conference right now. But this Wagner team, they have 1 win in conference, man. I don't think they can really overlook anybody right now. So I think they will show up for this game. And my problem is with Lemoyne, really. Well, not a problem, but this is a fade of Lemoyne. I mean, first of all, already, it's a big win. The fact that Lemoyne beat Long Island and gave them their first conference loss, and Long Island is the best team in this conference. Big win for Lemoyne, especially because Lemoyne is also pretty new to Division I, so that's a big win for them. And Long Island, I believe, won this conference within the last couple of years as well. Huge win for them. Also, I didn't check to see if it was a revenge spot or anything. Let me see. No. I believe, Lemoyne in the conference tournament, they lost to Central Connecticut last year. But anyway, now Lemoyne's coming to this game against Wagner here, who's near the bottom of the conference. Fairleigh Dickinson up next, and then Long Island. Those are bigger games than Wagner, even though FDU is kind of middle of the pack. But Wagner is going to be really easy to overlook right now, I think. And if you look at this box score, this is really why I decided to do this. This was one of the most misleading results you will ever see. The fact that Lemoyne won this game. Look at this game. Long Island had 30 more field goal attempts in the game than Lemoyne did. 30. And they had 6 more makes than Lemoyne did, and they lost the game. How is that even... Dude, I don't think you will ever find a game in history where a team attempted 30 more field goals and didn't win the game. I mean, that's just complete insanity. And to make it worse, Long Island only went to the line 12 times, and they missed half of their free throws. Lemoyne went to the line 31 times. So this was complete biased reffing, I assume, totally misleading. I mean, there might have been some intentional free throws at the end, but still, a 31-12 free throw attempt disparity. And Lemoyne actually turned the ball over more, but still won the game. But that's, the turnovers were close. And then the other thing that you see here is that Long Island also out-rebounded Lemoyne by double digits. When do you ever see a team dominate the rebound battle win the rebound battle by 12, have 30 more field goal attempts, and yet lose the game. It's unbelievable. Like, it's insane. I couldn't believe it when I looked at this box score. Moyne shot 60% from the field and 56% from three-point range. Absolute insanity. And this is, of course, this is a Moyne team. This is not a very good offensive team, although they're worse defensively, but still, it's just completely insane. Like, there's going to have to be some regression here. This was one of the most misleading results that you'll see all year, so I just have to do it. I have to fade Moyne. And should this team be laying points like this? I don't think so. And this line keeps going up and up and up, by the way, so you're probably going to get 9 on this. So I would just wait to find a good number on this, man. 8.5, 9, whatever. I'm sure you'll find it out there at some book. So 7.5 is what I put it in. I put it into the system when I put the banners in for the show. But, yeah, you're going to get a better number than that. Wagner is the play. My only college basketball play today. Fairleigh Dickinson is at Central Connecticut. I know I'm talking about this Northeast Conference a lot here. Central Connecticut just had a pretty ugly loss to Mercyhurst. Now, that was their first loss in conference since Long Island, or I think it was their only other conference loss. It was a bad loss, though. Central Connecticut was a road favorite in that one. It did end a win streak for them, but I kind of think they're going to bounce back from that coming back home. So I actually prefer Central Connecticut in this one. Fairleigh Dickinson is coming off a decent win over Wagner, where I believe FDU was actually favored in that game, a small home favorite, but I prefer Central Connecticut, the better team, and what I think is kind of a bounce back. You'd have to lay 7.5 with them, though. They're not really a great team to lay points with as a big favorite, though, similar to last year. The Citadel, who I just talked about a little while ago, in the SoCon is at East Tennessee State. There are a lot of situations that shape up here today, man. It's surprising that I'm only on one game with all these situations, but that's just the way that it is. The Citadel is coming off that massive upset of Furman, which I showed you already, and it was a little bit misleading when you look at that box score as well. Mostly, again, to refresh your memory, Citadel had way more free throw attempts in the game, so it looks like there was some biased reffing in that game. Big upset for them against Furman. Now they got to go play East Tennessee, who is near the top, actually at the top of this conference right now. But that's kind of my hesitation with it, is that if you're going to fade the Citadel here, which I would still lay the points with East Tennessee here, but if you're going to do that, you're banking on the Citadel just having nothing left in the tank here, and they are playing a third road game in 4 games. It is definitely a difficult spot for them, but mentally, I don't think they're going to lack focus, because they're playing the best team in the conference here. But that win was even a little bit bigger for Citadel, remember, because I believe Furman is in their state of South Carolina. But again, I don't think they're going to overlook East Tennessee. They're the top team in the conference, and East Tennessee also already manhandled them at the Citadel, beating them 74-49. So when you have a second conference matchup, which is what we have here, and the home team in the first matchup lost in a blowout and got totally embarrassed, they will probably try to fix some things and show up focus in the next game. So that's kind of why I'm staying away from this, that the Citadel will probably have some things to fix after a game like that. For East Tennessee, they are coming off a game where they didn't play that well at Chattanooga, and I was correct about that game. I told you Chattanooga plus the points was the lean in that one. It was the third straight road game for East Tennessee. Not the easiest spot. Chattanooga got up for them for an in-state rivalry game, and East Tennessee barely got through that game with a win. Now they're back at home, so I think in a spot like that, it is actually a positive. When a team who was a favorite almost lost the game, now they're back at home. I think you're going to get focus out of them. But one other hesitation with East Tennessee is they have one conference loss, and guess who that loss was to? Oh, yeah, that would be the team that they play next, Western Carolina. So they might actually look ahead to that game because that's the only team in the conference that beat them this year. So that is going to be a big game for East Tennessee. So potential look ahead there. So those are my concerns with this. I would still lean towards laying the points with East Tennessee, but you can see why I have some concerns with it. They're a 17-point favorite. The total's also pretty low at 140.5. If I was going to play it, I would still lay it, though, in that one. Middle Tennessee, who's in a different conference than that, in the Conference USA, is at Jacksonville State here, which is in Alabama, by the way. Middle Tennessee, they're playing a fourth road game in 5 games, which is not that easy. So I have some hesitations with this because when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, we got to play Middle Tennessee to bounce back here because they just had a pretty ugly game against Missouri State. Missouri State took them into double overtime, and Middle Tennessee barely got through this game. They were a favorite, although not a huge favorite, 5.5. That was part of the reason why I faded Missouri State yesterday as well, by the way. I thought it was a good spot to fade them. I'm still angry about it. But Middle Tennessee, after a game like that, on the one hand, you should think they should bounce back because they didn't play well as a favorite. But on the other hand, it was 2 overtimes, which could take a lot out of you. They're playing a fourth road game in 5 games, and their next game is against Liberty. And that is a huge game because those are the 2 teams that top the conference right now. So there's the worry about the look ahead here to Liberty. So those are my concerns with this game here with Middle Tennessee. Jacksonville State comes into this game off of a win over Louisiana Tech, which probably will just give them momentum coming into this game. They're staying at home, so the spot isn't really that bad for Jacksonville State here. You know, my first instinct was we got to lean towards Middle Tennessee, but I'm, thinking about it more, I'm actually kind of leaning in the opposite direction here. I actually probably lean towards Jacksonville State, and the line looks a little bit crazy as a pick'em here. Like, nobody's going to watch Jacksonville State with the uglier record as in a pick the winner type of situation here. Nobody's really going to want to do that. But the odds makers are telling you Jacksonville State's not that much worse. So I actually would probably wind up leaning towards Jacksonville State in that one, even though my initial instinct was Middle Tennessee will bounce back. But there seem to be a lot of negatives for the spot for Middle Tennessee. All right, and then we have Saab's game on Fox here. Ohio State and Michigan. Not as big a rivalry as it is in football, but still, these teams don't like each other. Michigan, number 3 in the country. Ken Baum, I believe, has them number 1 in his rankings. Let me see here. Yes, he does. Yes. Michigan, they're coming off a win over Indiana. It's a fine win. Michigan didn't cover. But really, if you're going to fade Michigan here, the reasoning would be that their next 2 games are both monster games against Nebraska and Michigan State. Those are huge games. Now, Michigan, because they're playing on Friday, they're actually not playing tomorrow. I know we have some smaller conferences that go back-to-back. Thursday, Friday, we have some doing that today. And then the Ivy League, I know, is pretty notorious for doing Friday, Saturday, although they don't have any games today, I guess. But Michigan won't play tomorrow because they're playing tonight, so they're not going to play again until the middle of the week. But they're playing Nebraska and Michigan State in their next 2 games, man. Those are monster games, and Nebraska's the only team ahead of them in the standings. Michigan State is right behind them, and, of course, that's a huge Michigan rivalry as well. So if you're going to fade Michigan, and I do agree with it, if you're going to play this game, I think Ohio State is the right side. You're doing it because it's a major look-ahead spot, man. That's the deal here. Ohio State probably needs the game more, and I know need can mean different things. Like, I don't like playing on a team that needs the game if it's like it's late in the season, it's like a must-win to get in, whatever, all that type of thing. Because usually that team's going to be overvalued, but obviously Ohio State's not going to be overvalued in this game when they're playing Michigan, you know what I mean? So I think you're probably going to get an effort out of Ohio State, a full game effort, and that's what you want when you're playing an underdog. So I do agree. I think that is what you will get. Ohio State's coming off a win over Minnesota at home. Not a big win there, so I think they will show up focused for this one. Now, you might have to worry a little bit about Ohio State on the road here. They haven't exactly been that good on the road. If you look at their road games this year, they only played 1 out-of-conference road game, I think, and it was a loss at Pitt, which is pretty bad. Although, if I remember correctly, I think did I give out Pitt in that game? I think I did. Because I kind of considered it to be a sandwich after Ohio State put up 100-plus points, and they had the Big Ten opener on deck. I think I actually gave up Pitt in that game. But that wasn't a good game for Ohio State. And then their other road games are all in conference. They only beat Rutgers by 7. They went out to the Pacific Coast and beat Oregon by 10. I mean, Oregon's been bad this year, but that's a fine win, I guess, given the situation. They lost at Washington, and that was it. So this is obviously going to be their most difficult road game so far. But Ohio State does have the ability to hang, I think, in this game, at least hang within this number. So, yes, I agree with Saab. I would lean to Ohio State in this game, but I don't have a strong opinion on it. Michigan's down from 16 to 15 here, so the number might continue to, well, I don't know, because you might be able to wait and get a better number on Ohio State, maybe, because this is going to be the game that the public is the most interested in. Like, if the public wants some basketball action tonight, this is on Fox. It's a big game. It's a Big Ten game. It involves a ranked team. This is going to be the game that probably gets the most betting attention. So, and Michigan's going to be the public side, so you might be able to get a decent number if you play it late on Ohio State. But yes, I agree with Ohio State generally. They're not that bad of a team. Ken Baum has them in like the 30-something ranking spot, but Michigan's obviously an elite level team this year. But that is factored into the number. That's why they're laying a huge price. Marquette at Butler is the other big conference game today. There's this Big East game on Fox Sports 1. It's, it's not the greatest game. Marquette has not been good this year. Marquette is coming off a crazy game where they beat Providence in overtime. Both teams went into the 100s. I think both teams like to play fast, and they don't play defense probably. So a really high-scoring game. A lot of times when a team does that, they will not have a whole lot of energy left after that. And for Marquette, they're going to be playing their third road game in 4 games, which isn't great. Although at least over the last 3 games, they're kind of staying in the same area-ish. They played in Chicago against DePaul or wherever DePaul is, somewhere near Chicago. Then they played in Milwaukee at home against Providence, and now they're going to Indiana to play Butler in Indianapolis. But still, coming up that crazy fast-paced overtime game, I think the spot probably sets up better for Butler. Butler's staying at home. They just beat DePaul only by 7 at home. Not an impressive win there. And Butler was coming off that nice win over Seton Hall the game before that, so they're potentially in a little bit of a letdown there. Now, the worry with Butler, obviously, is they have a look-ahead spot here, potentially to St. John's next, and that is going to be a bigger deal than Marquette, because Marquette's just not playing well this year. So this game is obviously a stay away from me. Butler is up from 7 to 7.5. It looks like maybe some of the money came in on the Butler side. I probably agree with it, but no strong opinion on this game at all. And then ESPNU has a decent MAC game here between Akron and Ohio after they have the uglier game earlier in the day, I think. Oh, no, the other one was on CBS Sports. My apologies. This game is definitely a lot better, though, and the games are going to overlap. Akron at Ohio. I mean, these two teams don't like each other. They're Ohio rivals. I still believe that Akron is the best team in the MAC. I mean, they were favored on the road at Miami, Ohio. Ken Baum has them like 20-something ranking spots higher than Miami, Ohio. But it is what it is. Akron's coming off winning at Buffalo, and now they're going to Ohio. They got Toledo and Kent State on deck, although I don't really see either team overlooking this game. Ohio's not that far behind Akron, but it is a second straight road game. I probably see Ohio maybe being a little bit more motivated for this one. Ohio's staying at home as well, and they barely got by Northern Illinois in the last game, which was not a good performance from Ohio. Northern Illinois is a pretty weak team, so Ohio may have been looking ahead to this game, man. But that ended a 2-game losing streak, including an ugly loss to Ball State on the road. So Ohio does have some newfound momentum coming into this game. So I probably do lean to Ohio getting the points here. They're a 9-point dog at home here. I could see them making this a battle in this game. So, yeah, I do lean to taking the points in that one. And then Fox Sports 1 has a Mountain West game in the late night. The Degenerate Special at 10 p.m. is Utah State at Colorado State. Utah State's fallen out of the rankings. They just had an ugly, ugly loss at home against UNLV, man. And I think Utah State was hung over, man, because they hadn't lost for a while. They were undefeated in conference. They hadn't lost for like a month until they lost at Grand Canyon. So I think that had a hangover effect where sometimes you lose the game twice when you have that first loss. So now it might be bounce back time for them going to Colorado State here, but they did already absolutely demolish Colorado State in the conference opener, embarrassing them at Utah State 100-58. So I don't know how seriously they're going to take Colorado State, but at least you got to think they will still be focused. So just because of that result in the last game, losing to UNLV at home, that's just awful. So I do think you're going to get a good effort out of Utah State here. Colorado State will show up as well. I mean, they know they're going to be hosting what is still the best team in this conference, Utah State. They know Utah State absolutely embarrassed them the last time they played them. Colorado State is staying in the state of Colorado. Actually, they're staying at home. They played their in-state rival, Air Force, which isn't much of a rivalry. Air Force is really, really bad in basketball, and Colorado State got the win over them. A nice tune-up game for them, basically. So the spot is not bad for Colorado State here, but I think if both teams show up, I do think you'll get the effort out of Utah State. They are the better team. I would probably have to lay it with Utah State here. They're up from 4 to 4.5 here. Just because I think that they should focus after they had that just horrible performance in the last game. I think they're going to come out with some intensity in this one. So those are my thoughts on the college basketball slate today. All right, let's go to hockey. I'm going to have two hockey plays here, man. Vegas is at Toronto, and Vegas is on a back-to-back. They played at Boston last night, and they almost came back and won. The Bruins were winning that game 4-0 going into the third period, and then Vegas cut it to 4-3. Really close game there, and I think the Bruins actually used Korpisalo in net in that game too. So it wasn't Swayman. But now Vegas is on the back-to-back. They're going to have Hill back in net for this one. They've been alternating their goalies, though, so it probably doesn't really matter. But the fact that it's a back-to-back, having to go from Boston to Toronto, I don't love it, man. And they did just beat Toronto back on January 15th in Vegas in a crazy overtime game, 6-5, where I think Toronto actually blew the game late. So I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Toronto will be more up for this game, and the spot, I think, sets up a little bit better for Toronto. Like, Toronto, might be making the adjustments and wanting to win this game after losing to this team before, but Toronto didn't play yesterday. Although Toronto is coming off a big game themselves against Detroit, where they took Detroit to overtime on Wednesday, and they have Colorado on deck, but I don't see them overlooking Vegas, a good team that just beat them. Vegas on the back-to-back with travel, I probably would have to lean to Toronto in this one, but I know the money doesn't agree with me on this one. There's a strong market read on Vegas in this one. I don't really get it. I don't think it's a good spot for them. They're up from -110 to -120 on the money line, 54% of the cash on Vegas, 83% of the tickets on Toronto. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, do you really think the public is coming into that extent on Toronto in a game that's almost like a pick-em price against Vegas? I don't see that being the case, so I don't know, man. It's a stay away from me, but I disagree with the market in that one. I think I would slightly lean towards Toronto. Next up is one of my plays, and this is one of these ones where I think I just have to do it. We're going to have a play in the ESPN game, Tampa Bay at Chicago, and we're going to do it. We're going to lay a puck line with the road team with Tampa Bay. We're going to lay the -1.5, man. I think we have to do it. I am almost never going to lay a puck line on the road. It's really, really dangerous to do it. You're going to need them to win by margin here, but this spot is really, really crazy. If you want to find some other way of playing it, like maybe, Tampa over their team total or something like that, I don't hate that either. Now, Tampa's starting a road trip. They've had 2 days off. And I know sometimes I usually don't like when a team has multiple days off and they're on a win streak like Tampa is, so that worries me a little bit. But starting a road trip and the fact that it's on ESPN, I think that should keep them focused in this game. It's only a 2-game road trip, and tomorrow they play Columbus. I just don't see Columbus being a huge game, really. So I think maybe they'll put in the effort in the ESPN game, because it's the TV game. So I think Tampa will show up in this game. They're definitely the more rested team here. And Chicago, I mean, this is about as bad as it gets as far as a spot goes for Chicago. They're on a back-to-back. And what did they do yesterday? They went down to Carolina for a single-game road trip, and they upset Carolina 4-3 in a shootout. And that's as crazy as it gets. You play them through an overtime period and beat them in a shootout, and you were almost -300 underdogs in that game. That's insane, man. Chicago started out the game with a short-handed goal. So Yeah, there are definitely some reasons why you should say Chicago should not have won this game. Carolina outshot them by 9. They outhit them by 7. They won 65% of the faceoffs, and Chicago got way more heavily penalized, and yet Chicago still won the game. It's a misleading result. Carolina dominated that game statistically, and now Chicago's coming off getting that win, and now they're back home. This is an awful spot for Chicago, dude. I know debate, sure, arguably they should still get up for a game against one of the best teams in the NHL, Tampa, but they just beat one of the best teams in the NHL in a misleading result yesterday. So this is a letdown spot with no rest and travel for Chicago. I hate it for Chicago. So we're going to be on Tampa Bay in this one, puck line. And hopefully they just do it and they just skate away with the game. Maybe we can get an empty net goal at the end to help us out. Who knows? Tampa Bay up from minus 250 to minus 260 here. 86% of the tickets, 95% of the cash on them. So it does look like the money is supporting this, at least for now. But I think we have to do it. The spot is just, it's a crazy spot, dude. Like, it doesn't get much worse than this for Chicago. So we're going to do it. Tampa Bay. The Lightning. All right. St. Louis at Dallas. This is a Sobs play here. If I was going to play St. Louis in this one, I would recommend making your own +1 puck line on this one. Although he might, I don't know. Did you say you're going money line on this? I don't know. Now, the spot sets up as a positive spot for St. Louis because they've lost both other games on the road trip. So I think you're going to get focus out of them because they want to at least salvage the last game of the road trip. They've lost badly on the road trip so far by a combined 8-1 score, including losing 3-1 to Winnipeg in the last game, although at least Winnipeg does have Hellebuck back. And St. Louis now has 2 days off, so that can help maybe disrupt that losing momentum too. So I don't see this being a bad spot for St. Louis. Now, I'm not going to play this game, but I will say that if St. Louis wins this game or it's really close, they're going to be in a Dallas sandwich and a return home spot in the next game tomorrow, by the way, on a back-to-back. So I think you're going to want to fade St. Louis tomorrow when they come back home and face L.A., who's actually a better road team, too. So I usually don't do this and, play the chess game and look ahead, but that looks like a spot where L.A. is jumping out at me as maybe a play there, depending on what happens tonight, though. So that's something to keep in mind. St. Louis is going to be in a bad spot most likely tomorrow. Now, for Dallas, I don't really know if I would want to fade Dallas here, man. They're on a back-to-back, so yeah, there is that, and they're traveling. They went up to Columbus, but that was an ugly game for them, man. They lost 1-0 yesterday. They don't have a big game up next. They play St. Louis again to start a road trip. Yes, they're playing a third game in 4 days with travel in between the games. But you just got shut out in your last game, man. So I think you're going to probably show up with some amount of effort. And, of course, they're switching back to their primary goaltender here, Ottinger. So you're not getting their backup goalie in this game. DeSmith, he played in yesterday's game. So you're going to get the better goaltender for Dallas here with Ottinger. And he's better than St. Louis's goalies. So I don't know if I can get there with this one, man. I agree that St. Louis is probably the correct side in this game to look towards. I'm not going to do it. Dallas is down from minus 170 to minus 158, so it does look like there is reverse line movement against Dallas. The market seems to support the St. Louis side here. Dallas is very public, 96% of the tickets and cash on them. I'll agree with the St. Louis side, but this one is not on my card. And again, I would probably do it a +1. Make your own puck line in this one. Although if the line keeps dropping, I guess you could grab St. Louis on the money line, but you're losing some value there as well as that line keeps dropping. Philadelphia at Colorado. Philadelphia just played into overtime in Utah on Wednesday. They're finishing the road trip here, and yeah, they'll want to win the road trip probably, so they'll probably be motivated for that reason. They're 1-1 on the road trip right now. But playing a second straight game in elevation of an overtime game is not going to be that easy, man. And they're going to be using one of their second-string goaltenders here, basically, or whatever you want to call it, because they've used Urson for 3 straight games. Not that I even think he's any good, but Flyers have some goaltending issues, man. So that is a concern, even though they should show up with focus for the Colorado Avalanche. But the Avs are staying at home. They've been at home since January 8th, and they haven't gone anywhere. They've actually had a bad homestand, believe it or not. They're 3-3 on the homestand, and this is the last game on the homestand. So I think they're going to show up. And I think Wedgwood was actually injured, their goalie, for part of this homestand as well. It looks like he's back. I don't know if it's going to be him or Blackwood. It'll be one of the two of them tonight probably. But they're coming off another loss in a shootout at home to Anaheim. So I think Colorado might show up focused in this game as well. I think both teams will. Colorado looks like they're getting some of the money, even though they dropped from -292 to -276. 86% of the tickets and 96% of the cash on Colorado. Looks like the money is kind of supporting the Colorado side here. I could definitely see the argument for laying the puck line with Colorado. I could also see an argument for going Colorado over their team total here and just playing against Philadelphia's mess of a goaltending situation there. And playing for Colorado to come out with a better offensive performance in this one. So I don't mind Colorado over their team total in that one. But I'm staying away from that game. The game does have a high listed total, by the way, in the 6.5 range. So it is one of the higher totals of the day. The Tampa Bay game I talked about is in the 6.5 range as well. So hopefully Tampa can get us over that threshold there, man. Hopefully Tampa can cover the puck line. I mean, Washington is at Calgary. Washington has lost both games on the road trip so far. Fairly ugly to lose to Vancouver, man. Although Washington had played Florida and Colorado in the prior two games, although they got pretty much destroyed in both those games. But it's still an ugly loss to lose to Vancouver. So I think you're probably going to get effort, at least out of Washington here. Although I said that against Vancouver, and it still didn't happen. But maybe after that loss, maybe you will get a better effort this time. Now, they do play Edmonton tomorrow. So there may be a little bit of a concern there that Edmonton is going to be the team that you usually are going to focus more on than Calgary. I said more on. Calgary looks like they should be focused as well, though, and they're staying at home. The homestand hasn't gone that well so far. They're 1-2 on the road trip. 1-2 on the homestand, They did just lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-1. So Calgary is probably going to be in a focus spot here as well, man, and actually probably the somewhat better spot, because they're not having to travel. But if both teams are going to show up, which I think they will, I think the better team does probably win out, although I know I said that last time, but the money looks like it is supporting the Washington side. I'll probably have to agree with it. Washington's a -140 favorite, 66% of the money on them for now, at least 79% of the cash on Calgary. I don't know if I buy that that's happening, but I know the public does kind of like underdogs just generally. I want to pay a little to win a lot. You know what I mean? They do like those money line underdogs to some extent, and maybe they're kind of fading Washington just because Washington's been really ugly recently. So I don't know, but the market read does look like it's indicating on Washington. The Devils are at Vancouver here. Devils Canucks here. New Jersey at Vancouver. New Jersey could be in a potential letdown here, man. They just beat Edmonton on the back end of a back-to-back, no less. They swept the back-to-back against Calgary and Edmonton. Big win over Edmonton, man. Now, Markstrom should probably be back in net here, I'm assuming, unless he's injured or something like that. But he's been kind of their primary goalie recently for New Jersey. They've had 2 days off, and I'm thinking the 2 days off might not help them. Because when you are coming off a big win like that against Edmonton, you pulled off the upset or whatever on the road, and now you're on a win streak, but now you have rest. I don't think the rest helps you, So I think it might be a little bit of a negative for New Jersey, like a sort of delayed letdown spot here where the extra rest might kind of wreck their momentum. Meanwhile, Vancouver, they're coming off a big win over Washington. You could argue it's a letdown spot, but Washington hasn't been playing well. They have not been playing well recently, Washington. And speaking of not playing well, that ended an 11-game losing streak, I believe, for Vancouver. And when teams end a loss streak like that, sometimes it's, like I said, with a team getting their first conference win or whatever, it's like you get that monkey off your back and you can play a lot looser and play better. So I think the spot is better for Vancouver in this game. I think they have ended that losing momentum. I would lean towards Vancouver here. It looks like the money does agree on that one. New Jersey's up from minus 140 to minus 145. 75% of tickets on them, but 85% of the cash coming in on Vancouver. I agree with the Vancouver side in that one. Maybe the slight concern that there's a little bit of a letdown component there for Vancouver, but I have to agree with Vancouver in that one. Then we have the Rangers at San Jose. This is a weird game. And I believe I disagree with the market on this one. The Rangers are finishing up a road trip here, and they've gone 1-2 on the road trip. So I actually think you're going to get focus out of the Rangers here, man. And, of course, I always point out they're a better road team than a home team. And the fact that they're 1-2 on the road trip, I think you're going to get focus out of them, and they haven't played since Tuesday, so they have 2 days off here to break this 2-game losing streak that they're on. So I think it's a positive spot for the Rangers here, and they're staying in the Pacific time zone. They're staying in California, although they're going up to Northern California here, but it's a way better spot for them than it is for San Jose. Look at the spot for San Jose here, man. San Jose is returning home from a road trip that they've been on since the 15th, so they've been on the road for over a week. They went all the way out east. They played Washington. Then they had to go back to Detroit for some reason. Then down to Florida for the back-to-back Florida trip there. And now they're coming back home from that. Yeah, they've had 2 days off, but you know what I always say. When a team returns home from a road trip, they can get caught in a bad spot, man. It could be a distraction. You have to get back to home life. You got stuff to do. They're having to adjust time zones again, traveling cross country. From Tampa Bay all the way up to San Jose. That's a long trip. So they got to readjust to the time zone. And it's even worse because they started another road trip in their next game, although they get the weekend to stay at home. Then they have to go out for Tuesday. They have to go to Vancouver to start a road trip. But they're in a road trip sandwich. And I talk about how difficult this situation is. I think it makes the road trip return even worse because you have less time to get stuff done at home. Although at least for them, they have multiple days off on both sides of this single home game here. So at least that helps that situation a little bit where they know they have a couple days left to do stuff at home after this. But I think the spot is pretty bad for San Jose here, man. So I like the Rangers in this game, and the market is completely disagreeing with me on this. San Jose up from minus 115 to minus 130. 52% of the cash on San Jose, so the money is coming in on that side. 70% of tickets on the Rangers, though. Public still, I guess, supporting the Rangers here, at least as an underdog. But I agree. I disagree with the market in this one. I lean to the Rangers in this one. That's the only way I would play this game is Rangers money line. Rangers, again, they're 16-11-2 on the road. So, they're much better on the road than at home, even with the recent road struggles. San Jose is okay at home as well. 13-9-3. That's not terrible. But they don't have a huge home-road split like the Rangers do, and the Rangers are much better on the road. So I like the Rangers in that game. I don't know what the market is doing there. And my final play of the day, I forgot to put the best bets thing up again. I'm skipping the NBA today, but of course I'm going to still talk about it. Last play of the day, we're going to be on the Seattle Kraken. On the money line here. We're fading the public in this one, man. The market read looks good on this one. We have 81% of the tickets on Anaheim, but 60% of the cash on Seattle. So I like to see that. Seattle's a small favorite here, minus 115. So, yeah, the odds makers are telling you Anaheim's a slightly better team, but only slightly. As far as the home road splits here, Anaheim, they're below 500 on the road. They are definitely better at home than on the road. Seattle is... If you include the overtime losses, Seattle is below 500 at home as well. But I still think they're better at home than on the road. So there are slight home road splits here in favor of Seattle. But the whole crux of this handicap is this is a major letdown spot for Anaheim, man. They're on a 5-game winning streak, but they just won at Colorado on Wednesday in a shootout. Huge win for Anaheim, man. So I just think they're going to be in a letdown off of that. I wish they had a bigger game up next in Calgary, but they do have, it's a back-to-back, Calgary and Edmonton, Sunday, Monday, so they still might consider that to be one big event and be looking ahead to that. But I still think at the very least a huge letdown spot, having to come out of elevation and now go back to the Pacific Coast, up to Seattle, where it's not really a team that really is going to draw that much of your focus. Although I think Seattle actually might have beaten Anaheim the last time they played them. Yeah, they did at Anaheim on December 22nd. But again, you don't want to weigh revenge too heavily, and I just don't think that that's a huge component here. And for Seattle, they did beat the Islanders in the last game, which you could argue there might be a little bit of a letdown component to this, but just like I said with Vancouver, I think it breaks their losing momentum, actually. So they had 4 losses in a row, and I know that's not as drastic as Vancouver breaking an 11-game losing streak, but I think Seattle's going to be focused on this game, man. Anaheim has been okay this year. Seattle, they are 1-1 on the homestand so far. Yeah, they beat the Islanders, decent win, but I don't know if they're going to be totally, overconfident about that win. You know what I mean? So I like Seattle. The money seems to agree with it. I think it's just a major letdown spot for Anaheim, and that's what put me over the edge onto Seattle in that one. So that's my other hockey play there. And that is the last game on the NHL slate there. All right, NBA. The first game up in the NBA is on Amazon Prime, and it is Houston at Detroit. It's a good game, but Houston kind of got screwed by the schedule makers here because they're playing a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, and they're having to travel from Philadelphia to Detroit. And their last 2 games were a win over San Antonio, and then yesterday we got the win with the Philadelphia side. But Philadelphia, that was an overtime game, man. So Houston did put up an effort in that game and had to go to overtime to do it. Now they have to turn around and travel to Detroit with no time off an overtime game. It just doesn't set up well for Houston, man. Even if, they should be focused mentally on Detroit, but it's like you might be seeing a pretty tired Houston team at this point, man. The spot is significantly better for Detroit here because they had their bad game in the last game against New Orleans. We got a win on that with New Orleans covering, although Detroit still won the game. And I think what that will do is continue their momentum. So Detroit had a pretty big win over Boston, my Celtics. The game before that, weird 1-game road trip to New Orleans. But for Detroit, they had the day off yesterday. They're back at home. The spot is definitely better for Detroit, so I could only look to the Detroit side if I was going to play this game. And pregame is not, I have to refresh it because it's not behaving for me. I think sometimes the JavaScript must die or something. Pistons are up from 3 to 3.5 here, so the money seems to agree with that side. 79% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the Detroit side. And I agree with it. So I agree with the market in that one. I would lay it with the Pistons if I was going to play it. Phoenix is at Atlanta. Phoenix coming into this game off of beating Philadelphia, and they're finishing a road trip. They've been on a pretty long road trip. They've been on since 10 days ago. So long road trip for Phoenix. They're 3-2 on the road trip right now, so they might not want to fall back to 500 on the road trip. They've had a couple of days off between Philadelphia and this game now against Atlanta, but a couple of days off might hurt their momentum, man, and that's what I worry about. Like when you're winning games like this, you might lose steam if you have too many days off. They're playing against Atlanta here. Atlanta did just beat Memphis on the road on Wednesday. Memphis was coming back from Europe, remember, so I think it was a pretty bad spot for Memphis, and Atlanta barely got by that game. But I believe it was technically a road upset where I believe they were a small underdog. Yeah, they were a very small underdog, 1.5, 1. They won the game by 2. Now they're coming back home from that single-game road trip here to face Phoenix. They don't really have anything upcoming, though, and that win against Memphis broke a 4-game losing streak. So I think that does give Atlanta some momentum coming into this one. So I probably prefer the Hawks in this game, but the money seems to not agree with that. The Suns are up from 1.5 to 3 as a road favorite. 84% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on the Suns. I don't agree with the cash percentage actually being 99, but it does look like if you read into it, it looks like the money is, at least for now, coming in on the Phoenix side, but I would lean against that. I kind of lean towards taking it with Atlanta in that game, just the way that it sets up. My Boston Celtics are at the Brooklyn Nets here. And this is a game where it almost looks too easy to play the Celtics. They dropped from 10 to 8.5 here. They're very public, 94% of the tickets, 99% of the cash is probably not accurate for the Celtics. The fact that they're only an 8.5-point favorite kind of leads me to believe that the Celtics might be resting somebody in this game. Let me see. Yeah, Derek White is not playing, so that's what's going on here. White is getting a day of rest here for the Celtics, so that's why the line is dropped. I don't know if White just on his own is worth 1.5 points, though. So I don't know about that, even though he is probably the Celtics' second best player to Brown right now, with Tatum obviously not having played yet this entire season. But, yeah, I don't know. So I kind of went back and forth on this. I'm like, well, if White's out, that might be a little bit of an overreaction in the number, but it also kind of indicates, because it's rest and it's not an injured player spot. It kind of seems like the Celtics are kind of just figuring, we're going to, take some rest in a game that should be a little bit of an easier game here, which kind of indicates that the Celtics aren't fully focused on the game. But sometimes the backups will come in and get fired up too. So there's a lot of things going on in this game. It is the start of a road trip for the Celtics, although it's only a 2-game road trip just tonight and tomorrow night, where they go to Chicago tomorrow. And if they're going to pay attention to one of these two teams, it's going to be the Bulls. It's not going to be the Nets, even though the Bulls haven't been good. But the Nets are easily overlookable, man. And the Celtics, I believe the Celtics did actually lose to Brooklyn once this year, though. They lost it at home to Brooklyn, which was a weird spot because it was a back-to-back. It was, or not a back-to-back, but it was a home-and-home with a couple of days in between the two. And, Brooklyn zigzagged the Celtics there. So, the Celtics actually lost their most recent game to Brooklyn, but I still don't know. You don't want to factor revenge in too heavily, and I don't know if the Celtics are really going to care about that much and be like, oh, we're going to just, we're going to readjust to what happened in that game or whatever. That was too long ago for me to really think that way. Celtics did just beat Indiana on Wednesday, but that's not really a big win or anything. For Brooklyn, no. I apologize, man. As my window, dude, I don't know. It's not really a Firefox. It's like Windows is just, I don't know. The way that Windows is trying to be like Apple and like automatically adjust the window size. I hate that. But anyway, Brooklyn, the main reason why I like Brooklyn in this game is because they just lost. It might have been the worst loss all season, man, except for the fact that it was to the Knicks, and the Knicks are a good team, and the Knicks were probably going to come into that game pissed off because the Knicks hadn't been playing well. But look at the final score in that game. The Knicks just beat Brooklyn 120-66 in Madison Square Garden. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. How do you only put up 66 points in a game? I mean, that's ridiculous. So coming off a game like that alone has me leaning towards the Brooklyn side in this game just for that reason alone. And they are staying in New York. I know that was a road game, but it was in New York City, whatever. Brooklyn is staying in New York City here. Now, they are playing a fourth game in 6 days, so there is that. So they've had a little bit of a packed schedule with one of those games being in Chicago. But I think I would have to lean towards the Nets plus the points in this game or leave the game alone. It's a low total to a 216.5, so it doesn't mean much in the NBA when it's still a lot of points being scored in the NBA just generally, but low total does at least mean that taking the points makes a little more sense. But again, when you put up 66 points in a game and you lost by 54, that's a team you probably want to look to be on in their next game if you're going to play the game. Correct. Garrett, what's up, man? Yeah, they lost by 54 to the Knicks. I know the Knicks are, I think they're the best team in the East. The Knicks, power ratings will tell you that, but still, I mean, nobody wants to get embarrassed like that. So it would be Nets or pass for me in that game. And it is a pass for me, though. Sacramento is playing at Cleveland. Sacramento's starting a road trip off of a pretty bad homestand where they lost the last 3 games of the homestand. Although, actually, they won the homestand, believe it or not. They won the first 4 games, including 3 massive upsets. And then they've actually been worse since Sabonis came back, which makes 0 sense. They might be easing him back in, though, because it looks like he hasn't factored into the stat leader. So I don't know what's going on with that. But Sacramento's lost every game except the first game that he came back. And that was the game we lost on the Wizards on, so isn't that just great? Sacramento's lost 3 in a row, but now it might be good for them to just forget about that, go on the road. They are playing a third game in 4 days, but I talk about this when things aren't going well for you at home. and you start a road trip, sometimes that is a good thing. You just get out of home, go focus on basketball. They should be focused playing the Cavs here. The Cavs just won on TV against Charlotte, although it wasn't that impressive of a win, but Charlotte has actually been playing well, believe it or not, recently. They've actually been like one of the better teams in the NBA over the last like month or so, which is hard to believe, but the stats bear that out. And that's why the odds makers are giving Charlotte a lot of respect recently. So that was a decent win for Cleveland, and now they're coming back home off of that weird single game trip to Charlotte. They do have Orlando on deck tomorrow. They got to go to Orlando tomorrow, so it's kind of a tricky spot for Cleveland. So I probably prefer Sacramento in this one. I would lean towards taking the points with the Kings here. They're a big underdog, 12-point underdog, 76% of the tickets and only 71% of the cash on the Cavs. So the Cavs are public with less of the money on them for now. So the market seems to agree with the Kings side in that one. That is the way I would lean in that game as well. The Pelicans are at the Grizzlies here. New Orleans at Memphis. New Orleans just played that pretty tough game against Detroit, man. They played reasonably well against Houston and Detroit in their last two games. Now they start a road trip, but they play San Antonio and Oklahoma City after this. So if they're going to overlook anybody on the road trip, it might be this Memphis team, man. Memphis hasn't really been playing particularly well. So I don't really love how this sets up for New Orleans. This game is kind of sandwiched in there between these bigger games. The game was pretty much over against Detroit. It's not like they took Detroit to the limit or anything, but they did cover, at least for us. I think New Orleans covered 2 games in a row for us on the show, so there we go. But yeah, the spot's not great for New Orleans here. Now for Memphis, they return home from the Europe trip. They're back home, and I believe, John Morant actually came back in the London game against Orlando. I didn't even realize he was coming back, and that would have had me leaning against Memphis a little bit in that game, even though it was a zigzag spot for them. But Morant coming back, I think he's a chemistry disruptor. And when a star player comes back like that, usually it shifts the line too much or whatever. But luckily I didn't consider that, and I just avoided the game because Memphis did win. And again, then they came back home from Europe, which is a tricky spot, and they lost to Atlanta. But now it's a second game back home after a loss. I think they'll show up for this game. They do have Denver on deck, which is a little bit of a concern, and Houston after that. So my concern with Memphis is that they might be looking ahead. But I lean to Memphis otherwise. They're laying 6 points, 90% of the tickets, 97% of the cash on them. They're up from 4.5 to 6 here. So the money looks like it is agreeing with Memphis in this one as well. That's right, Garrett. You're the Carolina guy there. Yes, the Hornets. They're playing all right. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Next up is Indiana at Oklahoma City, and Indiana's still looking for finals revenge, man. If you remember, I gave out Indiana in the first game of the season, I'm pretty sure, because they actually played Oklahoma City the first game of the season. I don't know if I've ever seen that, to be honest, where the finals matchup is also the first game of the next regular season. But Indiana almost won that game, if you don't remember, even without Halliburton. They took Oklahoma City, I believe it was in Indiana, and Indiana took OKC to double overtime in the game and lost but covered. I believe it was like a 7.5-point dog or something like that in the game. We got the win with Indiana in that one. And I think people were thinking that was a crazy idea to play Indiana in that one, but I'm crazy, baby. So I think Indiana still will be focused for a game against the I mean, how could you not be focused anyway when it's the best team in the NBA that you're playing against, the Thunder? But Indiana has even more reason to focus because they still haven't beaten them since getting eliminated in the finals last year. Indiana is coming off a game against Boston. They are playing a 4th straight road game, which is not that easy. And they played all pretty difficult opponents on this road trip. And they're having to now travel from the East Coast to Oklahoma City, which still isn't that easy to do. But I think they will show up for the game at the very least. And they're used to playing in Oklahoma City because they did last year numerous times in the finals, so more than they usually would. Oklahoma City's coming off a game against Milwaukee, but the big deal with Oklahoma City here is they're returning home from a road trip. So I think that does make it a negative spot. They've been on the road for a week. They were on the road since last Thursday. And I talk about it when a team returns home from a road trip. Sometimes they can lack focus. They have to get back to home life. They might not totally pay attention. They play Toronto next. Maybe not a huge look ahead there, but Toronto is at least a winning team right now, unlike Indiana. And Oklahoma City, they beat Indiana earlier this year, like I said, although it was a close game, but they beat them in Indiana. So OKC probably thinks this will be, they'll probably think it'll be an easy game, I would imagine. The Thunder will. So if I was going to play this game, I would take the points with the Pacers. But fading the Thunder at home is a little bit dicey because the Thunder do win by margin at home quite often. Like I said, they probably win by about an average of like 18 points or so at home. The Thunder down from 17 to 16 here. 57% of the tickets and 94% of the cash on the Pacers. So the money is agreeing with me on taking the points with the Pacers. I wonder if there are some injuries at play here as well, because it seems like somebody's always out for Oklahoma City. It's Hartenstein is still out, and then I guess Caruso is out, and he's one of their better defenders. So a couple of guys out for OKC, although, they're a deep team, though. And, Pacers is just the usual. Mathurin is still out. I think he's been out for a while. Toppin, I think, also has been. And Halliburton has missed the whole season. So that's what's going on there. Hard to believe Indiana's this bad this year. Well, they've had other injuries, too, though. Like, they haven't been healthy. Even if you don't factor in Halliburton, they still haven't had the rest of their players. Like, they haven't had a full roster minus Halliburton this entire season, though. Like, always somebody's been out. Like, they've been missing Mathurin, and Toppin for a lot of the season, and then Nembhard was out for a bunch of it as well. Like, they have not been healthy. But they were also a little bit overrated last year as well. Like, that run that they made to the final was a little bit misleading. Like, they were not like the second best team in the NBA or anything, not even close. Like, Indiana would have been an underdog to probably like 9 or 10 teams. Like, that's why I was very heavy on the Thunder in the finals, and I gave out the Thunder, I think, twice as plays in the finals. And even though I'd lost my job, one of the bets that I actually made with money was on OKC to win the finals after they were losing. What were they down? They were down 2-1, I think is what they were down. I think is when I did it, when they were down 2-1. You got a pretty good number. They were still like minus 200, but that was a really, really good number, and that wound up winning for me. So, but Indiana was not that good last year. Like, let's just put it that way. They overperformed in the playoffs. They caught a Cleveland team who was better than them, but Cleveland just had wasted all their energy during the regular season and then got massively injured and couldn't get through them. And then who else did Indiana even beat? They beat the Knicks, I guess, which was fine. But the Knicks were coming off that monster series against the Celtics when Indiana ran into them. So I think Indiana was not as good as the Knicks. They were not as good as the Celtics. But the Celtics, of course, lost Tatum. I think the Knicks might have had some injuries as well. The Knicks just weren't a deep roster. So I don't know. And then Indiana, through their playoff run, they got to avoid the entire Western Conference. And the Western Conference was stacked. Like, over in the West last year, numerous teams in the West were all better than Indiana last year. Like, of course, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, probably the Lakers. I would even say probably Houston, Golden State, Denver, of course. I think all those teams would have been favored on a neutral location over Indiana last year. So, Denver at Milwaukee is the other Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime's got the doubleheader, and when they scheduled this, they probably didn't realize that Jokic was going to be out. So this game looked better than it is now. Denver's coming off beating Washington yesterday, but now they're on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days. That's not that easy to do, man. So the spot's not great for Denver here. They did get by Washington yesterday, though, so they'll have a little bit of momentum at least. From Milwaukee, they're staying at home. They didn't play yesterday. They returned home from a quick road trip and lost to Oklahoma City by 20 in the return home spot. You got to think they will show up because it is still Denver. They did actually just lose at Denver by 4 on January 11th as well. So I'd probably prefer Milwaukee in this game. They're going to be laying points, though. So It's also going to look weird, right, that the Bucks are a favorite like this against the Nuggets. But again, Jokic gets factored big time into the line here. And the Nuggets might actually have other injuries that they're dealing with as well right now. Let me see. What do we have going on here? No, it looks like they are fairly healthy otherwise. Like the usual suspects look like they are playing here. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, so whatever. But Jokic is a big factor, man. The Bucks are up from 5 to 6.5. And, of course, the Bucks are not as bad as their regular season record might lead you to believe because they do have Giannis back now, and he missed a large portion of the season. So the Bucks are more at full strength right now than they have been for some of the season. 57% of tickets, 69% of the cash on the Bucks. I agree with the Bucks. I would lay it if I was going to play it, but I don't really have any interest in doing so. Toronto is at Portland to finish the NBA slate here. Toronto's staying on the Pacific Coast. They're already in the middle of a Pacific Coast road trip here. They're 2-1 on the trip so far. They just won by margin against Sacramento, and now they're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities, so that's not that easy. And they play Oklahoma City next and the Knicks after that, so there's a possible look-ahead component to this here, so I prefer the Trailblazers in this game. And the Trailblazers, by the way, they're above 500. Believe it or not, the Blazers have won 11 of their last 14 games. So they've been sneakily been playing good basketball. Although they have this dude who I basically had never even heard of until yesterday or whatever. Avdija, how do you pronounce this? I thought his name was something else. I thought it was Avdija. It's Avdija. He's an Israeli, and he's basically out there promoting. I can't say it. I'm going to get nuked on the show. He's promoting the things that Israel is doing out there. I'm like, give me a break, man. Like, you could at least admit that they're doing that, but still say that you like your country or something like that. Like, I would have more respect for you if that was your take, right? Like, that would be my take as well. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I don't like what the U.S. military is doing. They're committing mass murder all over the place, but I like my country, the United States. I like America. You know what I mean? Like, that should be the take. That's a good take, but that's not what he said. He's like, you have to promote everything that the state is doing. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Screw that guy. So Portland is not on my good side right now. Let's just put it that way. Portland is on a nice run here, 4 wins in a row. They did just get a win over Miami yesterday, though, and they have Boston next, starting a road trip, which will be a Peacock game. So I don't think Portland's in the greatest spot here either. Although prior to yesterday, they had multiple days off. They had 3 days off before that, so it's not every back-to-back is equal. The rest isn't going to be as bad for them because they had a lot of rest before yesterday. So I still prefer the Trailblazers in this game plus the points, but the money's not agreeing with me. 60% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on the Raptors. They're up from 2.5 to 3 here. So the money is on Toronto for what that's worth. I somewhat disagree with that, but that's going to do it, man. I'm being a little bit selective today. I say that a lot, but yes, Kyle, yes. College basketball, yes, correct. Yeah, I have to do it. The Saturday college basketball slate, thank you for reminding me, Tyson. Yes, that is correct. I will be back tonight to do the huge college basketball. Well, actually, last week I did it early in the morning. I don't know, man. It depends how I'm feeling. I have to start handicapping it earlier in the night. That's what I have to do because it is – I don't like to start – like, dude, I start the handicapping at like 10. And it takes me like almost 2 hours to handicap everything, which is actually quick to handicap every single game. But I use my shortcuts. I look for situations mostly. Then it's like a 2.5 hour show on top of that. And ending at like 3, 4 in the morning. I don't want to do that. So like, if I could start it earlier at night, then I will do it tonight. So maybe that's the way that I have to do it. You like Caleb Love? Yeah, I mean I don't know. He's kind of on my bad side just because he takes too many bad shots, man. Like, when he was in college, I was getting really frustrated. Like, I got frustrated making plays on his teams. I know you like him because he went to North Carolina. The thing I like about him is he exposed Hunter Dickinson for being a dick. which we already knew, but Dickinson had that real cheap shot where he like stepped on Love when Love was already on the floor. When Dickinson was on Michigan and Caleb Love was on North Carolina, if you remember that. And then Dickinson, because people don't remember that. Everybody only remembers like the most recent thing where Dickinson, of course, then wound up on Kansas and Caleb Love wound up on Arizona. But yeah, Caleb Love, I mean, he could definitely he can hit some shots. Dude, he was on my good side. There was one game where I think he hit like a half-court shot at the buzzer to cover a game from me, like last year maybe or something with Arizona. Do you remember that game? Whatever game that was, that half-court shot that he hit gave me a win on one of my plays. So I liked him for that as well. Maybe he's not on my bad side then. Pinsy, yes, thank you. Yeah, Ice is going to show up. I don't know. These NBA players, they can get away with it, man. Although he's probably legally in the country. Yeah, I don't want to be associated with Netanyahu. Yeah, you do remember that? Yeah, I forget what game that was, but I'm pretty sure it was for Arizona. It was last year or 2 years ago. And whatever it was, it covered the number for me, whatever it was. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to go back and find that game, though. All right, that's going to do it. Our selectivity tonight, we have one college basketball player, which is Wagner plus the points. Although I think you'll be able to get about 9 on this game. And then we have the 2 hockey plays, which are getting a little bit risky with laying a puck line on the road with Tampa Bay. But I'm only going to do that if I think the spot is really, really horrific and there's a really big gap between the two teams. I think that's the case there. So we're going to do it with the Lightning. And then we're also on the Seattle Kraken on the money line there. Fading fading the 2 biggest letdown spots in the NHL. That's the name of the game. And that's what I'm doing, and the market seems to agree with those. It's hard to read what the market is doing on the Wagner game. But that's going to do it, man. LearnToToad on Twitter, LearnToToad on Instagram. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for hanging out again. Of course, like, subscribe to the channel here. Tell more people about it. Put it out there. We got to get, dude, I've been stagnant, man. I got to get to the 500 subscriber threshold. I got to get to 1,000, like try to monetize this. That's really what I want to do. Start getting some super chats involved. We're on audio as well, so listening over there helps me out. Give me a review. We have some 5-star reviews out there already on Spotify and Apple. That helps me out. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. I got a couple Uke covers I need to get up there. I got to start putting some behind the subscriber wall on Twitter, though, because I've been meaning to do that. But I also, dude, I have to organize. I have so many of my, like all the old ones that I used to post on Twitter are all on my phone still. My phone is running out of space. I have so many Uke videos. My phone is almost all Uke video. It's Uke videos and memes, but the Uke videos are taking up so much space. I have to organize it, and it's going to be a huge undertaking, but I got to do it. So I'm going to try. Patreon.com/LearnToToad, and you get some bonus Uke content there. And the Loser Cast. You can go check that out. You can vote for J-Cup, Exploding J-Cup Lady was my loser pick for the week. Thank you, Charles, for that one. Charles gave me another suggestion for the upcoming week. I don't know if I'm going to use that one, though. And sometimes, dude, we have to see what happens. So many things are going to happen between now and Tuesday. So, Tuesday Lose Day. Yeah. That's what we should call it. I'm going to tell Leighton that. All right. But yeah, like, somebody might arise as a loser selection between now and then. Kind of likely, actually, because I just hang out on Twitter and I see things. So until then, man, that's going to do it. I'll be back. I'll try to do it tonight because it makes my morning way easier if I do it. But I'll try to do it at least like a little bit early. I'll probably try to get the handicapping started at like 8 p.m. tonight, maybe. I got to get all my steps in before that, though. 10,000 steps, man. On Friday, at least I'll have to get the steps done. But I'm going to lift some weights, too, at some point. So I got to get all this stuff done today, man. That's going to do it. Be on the lookout. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll know when I go live. And hopefully my intro is long enough that it gives you enough time to get in here. That's going to do it for now. Peace.